Okay, we're going to get into chapter 8 this morning, and chapter 8 kind of gets into the nuts and bolts of the buyer being able to qualify for the loan they're trying to obtain. And starting out on page 220, it talks about loan underwriting. That's kind of the essence of this chapter. And loan underwriting is simply the lender taking a close look at the buyer's ability to pay for the property, to repay the loan. The page 220, at the very top of that page, talks about qualifying standards. And again, a lot of this comes back to risk, and the buyer being able to pay the loan back in regard to job stability, qualifying ratios, how much debt do they have versus their income. And again, like I said, I think in the previous video, the real estate agents, we don't get involved too much with qualifying the buyer. We can do it for our own informational purposes and the buyer's informational purposes, but as far as actually being the end authority on whether a buyer is going to be approved for the loan, we're just not qualified to do that. Once all this, your contract goes into effect, your buyer starts their loan process, that buyer is going to be, their information is going to be placed into what's called an automated underwriting program. There's more details on it on the bottom of page 221. Automated underwriting has been around for a long time. It's basically a computer software program that it basically it's almost it thinks for itself. It takes in the buyer's income, looks at their debt, looks at their credit history, their credit score, and then it renders an opinion on whether, according to the guidelines that have been set forth, whether that buyer can repay the loan or not, based on the information that the automated underwriting system has. There's a couple of terms that you'll probably need to be familiar with. On page 222, the loan can either come back to the mortgage company or to the mortgage bank as approved through the automated underwriting system, or it can come back to them as referred. And referred doesn't necessarily mean that they've been declined, but the computer program has noticed some anomalies or something in their file that needs a person to look at, a human being to look at and review. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're denied. So anyway, y'all can read through page 222, 223, 224 classifies different types of risk, and 225. And when I talk about risk in these classes, and if you decide to take any finance courses, accounting courses, the risk is always a term that comes into play in all of these top business classes, finance classes. It's basically the chance that a lender is willing to take to loan someone money based on their ability to repay. So when we're talking about FHA loans, VA loans, those are relatively higher risk loans simply because they do not require a large down payment. So when a person using, for example, a conventional loan, let's just say the sales price is $100,000 and the buyer wants to borrow $80,000. Well, that loan has less risk to a lender because that customer is coming in with $20,000 of their own money to help fund this home purchase or this real estate purchase. So that loan is considered a less riskier loan than maybe a loan that is a VA loan that requires no down payment, or an FHA loan that requires less than 5% down of the customer's own money. So when we talk about risk, that's what we're talking about. The higher loan-to-value loans are riskier loans than a lower loan-to-value loan would be. On page 227, the book goes in, 226, 227, goes into a lot of details on customers' payment records, payment histories, things like that. On 229, it goes into talks about derogatory issues on a person's credit report. Talks about charge-off, collections, repossessions, judgments, things like that. Page 231, 230, 231 talks in great detail about credit scores. It kind of gets rid of some of the myth about how credit scores are determined. It talks about the three major credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. It goes into income analysis, what's considered stable income versus commission, overtime bonuses. Realtor mortgage companies sometimes have difficulty being able to count overtime. Overtime is a problematic issue when it comes to being able to count that towards the buyer's income. Verifying income, 236, 237, investment income, passive income, alimony and child support. Read through those. That's real important. And I guess, finish up Chapter 8, and then you can take the quiz. There's one more thing I want to talk about. On page 254, owner-occupant. Whenever we're talking about FHA, VA loans, we're talking about people that are buying them to use as their primary residence. There are non-owner occupant loans available for customers in terms of someone buying a property maybe for an investment property or a rental, something like that. There are loan programs out there, for your buyers. They just require more down payment money. They're riskier to a lender, so the lenders assess that risk and they require more down payment. Subprime lending was basically done away with in 2008. In 2009, subprime lending was considered by some to be a big contributing factor to the mortgage crisis that we faced. 2008, 2009, the foreclosure crisis that was made national news over and over and over again. Page 258, risk-based loan pricing. Read through that. That's an important part of the chapter. Take your quiz, take your chapter quiz, and we'll be back a little bit later with chapter 9 and 10. Thanks.